Hello. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In today's video, I will explain about my code for searching about the best shock absorber in military use to compliance with ulangan akhir semester metode numeric. In previous text, I have concluded that the best shock absorber is by using the extreme shock suspension here. Let me share my findings. Yes, here, in my initial thinking, the first conclusion that I took is based on the performance from extreme shocks. This suspension is very good to be used in military vehicle because this high-end model will definitely provide the vehicle with extensive reliability and can make sure that the military vehicle can tackle any terrain, which is very important in a warfare zone. But now, it is only the first step. We need to calculate, is it really extreme shocks that can take a hard terrain other than other suspension? To prove this, I have conducted an analysis using numerical simulation to test its suspension performance. Well, in this analysis, I wrote a code that will automatically find which is the best suspension to be used. Now, in my numerical simulation, the performance is calculated by sets of parameters. The first is I use a numerical software called MATLAB, and I give some parameters so it knows what context it needs to process. First, the program needs to know what load the vehicle will handle. In this, I have a fixed load of 18,000 kilograms. This is from the trailer that carries satellite, which will be pushed by military vehicles. We will use the shocks in this trailer, and then there is also external force, which function as a rough terrain modeled as 200, model as FT. That's the external force. External force. Yeah. And then I gave each shock specification that we have. Number 1, air coaster. Number 2, cloud riders, and number 3, extreme shocks. Now, after we have set the parameters for MATLAB, we could write the calculation we need. So the program will calculate how better the suspension can absorb rough terrain in the mean of time. So I insert time parameters with end time and start time. And then there's also pre-allocate arrays. This will calculate and store absorbed forces for each suspensions over time. And then you can calculate differential equation using Euler method. Basically, it will loop through each suspension shock absorber and calculate initial condition. The displacement and velocity is set to 0 for each absorber, for each shocks, and then the time loop will start. And for each time step, it will compute acceleration and update its velocity, and meanwhile also update its displacement. From that calculation, it can calculate absorption results for each shock, calculate the absorbed forces, and store the data, absorption underscore T. And then after it calculate the absorbed forces, it can plot the results for each suspension over time when handling the rough terrain. After that, we can get recommendation based on maximum absorption. Here, the program will calculate a max absorbed force for each shock absorber and determine and also print the shock absorber with the highest maximum absorbed force as the best output. Nah, it's time to run the code. Well, we can see there is a graph in the as figure 1, and in the command window we get our answer. After calculating each absorbed performance of each shock absorber, we could get the data that extreme shocks took the best performance in absorbed forces. We can see that extreme shocks absorbed more force than other shocks. That's why, after calculating, the program recommends us to use extreme shocks as the recommended shock absorber. This calculation simulates the performance of other 3 shock absorbers in the trailer by calculating the second order differential equation here using the Euler method. The external force is also calculated as its property, representing rough terrain for the suspension to tackle. Now, in summary, the shock absorber with the highest maximum absorbed force is recommended as the best performer for absorbing impacts and providing optimal protection for the trailer. This numerical calculation makes sure a scientific analysis of a suspension shock absorbers will provide a clear recommendation based on quantitative analysis. And that's why this calculation can help us know that extreme shocks is the best, not by only assumption, but also calculation. All right, that's all that I can present for today's video. Thank you very much for watching me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.